Hey guys, Greg here from Premier Fitness Systems. Having worked with a lot of top players in the world, one of the biggest things we see issues with golfers at all levels is pelvic stability in the golf swing. Having good understanding of kind of what neutral pelvis looks like, getting good hamstring engagement, and then making sure we get good rotation from the thoracic spine instead of the lumbar spine. So I've got a few great drills today. I'm going to teach you that we use with a lot of our players, all different ages, kind of help you start to get a better understanding of making sure you get good rotation from where you should be getting it from. All right, so first drill I got is a good separation drill. I'm going to use band, kind of set it up on a rogue rack, rig, whatever you've got. Biggest thing is you want to set it up so that if you come out in front, that basically it sits kind of just snug under the armpit. So goal on this one, first thing, like I said, is we're going to work on kind of pelvis. So first thing I want to do is kind of set up in a half kneel position, thinking about starting to get that pelvis to neutral. So a lot of times what I see when people do rotation drills is they're kind of got that anterior pelvic tilt, which means I'm going to rotate through my lumbar spine. So biggest thing is I want to think about like my butt like a bowl, and I'm trying to tuck it under. So if I think about myself having a two-legged table right here, the second important part is getting this hamstring kind of piriformis to kind of turn on. So I want to imagine my foot is kind of dragging back. So I've got a good tuck and then a good drag back, which kind of creates some tension here. That's going to keep my lower body nice and stable. So next on here, what I want to do is I want to think about, I'm going to take a deep breath. I'm going to throw a punch. So I've got some good tension here on the end of the band. And then I want to work on staying as tall as I can. Good rotation. Tendency is going to be to release the tuck. That's where I start to kind of rotate through my lumbar spine. So I want to stay nice and tall. Probably feel a good stretch here up the quad in the hip flexor. Deep breath in, get all the air out of the lungs, coming out, getting some good separation. So it's a great drill, kind of work on that thoracic mobility. What this does is force the lower body kind of lock down and create rotation where we want it in the golf swing. But I'd probably recommend maybe 5 reps, 10 reps a side, kind of alternate sides.
One more.
All right, so this next drill is a great exercise for starting to work on keeping that posterior tilt, making sure you keep those hamstring engaged for lower body stability, kind of work on an anti-rotation drill. So you want to grab a band of some sort, kind of set it up on a rig nice and low. You want to make sure that you come out further enough off the rack so that when you come up in an anti-rotation, it's not too much tension pulling you off the midline, but you've got some good resistance. So next thing we're going to do is foam roller, yoga block, whatever, help to kind of recruit the adductors. So adductors are really important as far as starting to get my pelvis into a better tuck position. So a lot of times what I see on this is people don't get into a full tuck, or they tuck, and then the minute they kind of start to activate, their hamstrings don't stay on. So what we're going to do on this is I'm going to have you come into a posterior tilt, so your butt's just off the floor. Then we're going to squeeze the block or the foam roller, and then think about dragging the heels. What that's going to do is really turn on the hamstring, kind of keep everything nice and solid. Tendency is the minute I kind of go here with the band, I kind of lose focus of keeping my hamstrings on and staying in that tuck. So we're going to go for a 10 count on here. So I want to think first thing we're going to tuck so that butt comes just off the floor. I want to squeeze the roller, and then I want to make sure that my feet are out further enough so that I can pull my heels. Imagine I'm dragging them back towards me, really turn those hamstrings on. And I'm going to go an inhale breath, keeping that tension, going into that anti-rotation. Biggest thing on here, making sure you stay in that tuck, dragging the heels, and make sure you're not coming off the midline. So I'm going to go good breath in. I want to tuck, squeeze, drag the heels so the hamstrings are on. In breath, and then coming out on the exhale breath. holding for a 10 or 15 count on there. All right, so next drill, really good for recruiting hamstrings and hips, as well as kind of working on the thoracic spine. See, a lot of people do this drill improperly as well because they never kind of get their pelvis to neutral on here. They're always in that anterior tilt kind of working. So what ends up happening is if I don't get my pelvis to neutral, I don't really engage the hamstrings the way I should to really work what I'm trying to work here. So, you know, I want you to start on this drill. We're going to start kind of anterior tilt, and I want you to think about posterior tilt as much as you can. Go anterior tilt, posterior tilt. So you're kind of aware of what that feels like. So think about getting in that posterior tilt, and then I want to think about having a few inches of bend in the knees, and imagine you're trying to drag your heels back. But that's going to really engage the hamstrings on here. I'm going to bring hands up. I'm going to go in through the nose, breath. And then I want to reach out as long as I can. Tendency is when I kind of hit that point where I can't really move anymore, I see people lose that pelvic tilt on there, and then they kind of just dump into the lumbar spine. So it's trying to keep that pelvis good neutral position, coming out as long as you can on here to really get into those hamstrings. So a great drill, kind of do a set of 10, maybe hold the last one at the bottom for an isometric hold for a 10 or 15 count, but really start to work on hamstring mobility as well as kind of pelvic awareness.